One of the questions that came in the thread is kind of a broader one that I'm kind of curious about. It says, what next milestone in Star Citizen's development are you most looking forward to? I mean, it seemed like weird because obviously you're looking forward to all of them. These are all things you want and everything. But like a parent trying to pick favorites among children, is there something that you're like?
Well, I think the most immediate one is the object container streaming stuff, because it's the one that's going to allow us to sort of expand the world in a manageable fashion. So we're working really hard on that for 3.3.
Yes.
It's a lot of work because it requires a complete, every single piece of game code has to operate in a thread-safe and batch-safe manner, which is different than how the engine was built previously.
Right.
So there's a lot of legacy code that we have to create, and all our new code's being sort of built with this in mind, but again, not all of that was necessarily built with it properly, and has to be, we've got to test it, make sure it's all working. So it's a massive, the undertaking to go to the object container streaming is as massive, more massive than the moving to the large world.
64-bit precision.
Yeah, and so it's a huge effort on the engineering side, but once that's in, that's going to open up a bunch of stuff, and then there's a few features beyond that I'm, the physics I mentioned earlier because that's one of the last holdouts that isn't properly batched the same way. It's still multi-threaded, but it's sort of an asynchronous model versus a phase model. So an asynchronous model is you're doing several things at once. So like maybe you're updating the entities, then you're updating the physics at the same time, and perhaps even rendering at the same time. Right. And then you have problems in syncing between them because the entity drives the render and the physics drives the entity. So the best is what's called sort of a phase batch model, which is you update the physics, and what you do is you use every single core you can use, and say you have 10,000 physics objects, you distribute them to all these different cores, and they do their simulation, usually in their little islands, because any objects that would be interacting with each other would be on one core. And so you blast through that as much as possible, use all the computing power to resolve the physics, then you do the update of the entities same way, and then you render the same way. So we're moving to that model, but that does require refactoring of physics is one of the last things. And then when we do that, that means that the physics can scale much better, because the problem we have on our servers, which have a lot more cores than our clients, is that physics just operates on 4 cores maximum. So even if you have a server with 32 cores, you can't scale. And when we can scale the physics, that's when we can really increase the player count on any individual server. And then the final part, obviously, is the server meshing, when we'll be able to, so I think what will happen is with the object container streaming and then moving to the batch model of physics, we'll be able to get the player count on any one server to at least 200 or so. And then the server meshing will allow us to go quite a bit beyond that in terms of people in areas or instances in the close space. And then that world becomes truly massive, and everyone can sort of exist in the same area and venture around and live their virtual life.
Just gave Ricky a heart attack. No.
That's on our plan. That's our project plan.
Yeah,
so
no,
I'm just telling you the bits of tech that are going to enable this seamless universe online.